All right, guys. Some familiar faces, some new faces. All right, there we go. So welcome everyone to the Open DeFi DAO Day. Inviting our hackers from our previous Gitcoin Hackathon. We're inviting some community members from our upcoming DAO, and we're also going to be inviting some partners today to come speak about what's next for Open DeFi and look back at the past hackathon we did. Wanted to kick things off by showing you an introduction to the upcoming Open DeFi DAO. So we have Merrick, a core team member, who will be coming in and speaking about what's next for Open DeFi. Merrick, if you want to pop on screen.
Sure, Sammy, thank you. Can you see and hear me? Hi.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, awesome. I've got some slides to share. Here we are. Can you see the slides okay?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that intro, Sammy. Yeah, so my name is Merrick. I'm here to say a few words about the Open DeFi DAO that's going to be launching in the coming months. And together with the DeFi community, the Open DeFi DAO is going to be building the future of multi-chain DeFi together. So we live in interesting times in DeFi. Certainly we're seeing, I would say, the dawn of multi-chain DeFi right now. Last year, many of us were around and took part in now famous DeFi summer that was primarily an Ethereum phenomenon where most of the activity was taking place on Ethereum. Despite that, there was a relatively small amount. I mean, comparatively small amount, 150 million of activity last year, DeFi activity last year, happening in a multi-chain context. And if you fast forward to today, that number is now an astonishing 35 billion in multi-chain DeFi, which accounts for over 30% of the DeFi market. So, despite that, it's still early days in multi-chain DeFi, because what we're seeing today, happening today, is that there's sort of across multiple platforms, we're seeing kind of different copies of the same kinds of applications, whether they're lending applications or stable coins or yield farms, etc. And with I think some exceptions, these applications are sort of still running siloed and not really talking to each other and not working with with other blockchains and platforms. And this is something that we see is going to be changing in the coming months and years. So kind of buckle up and join us. Open DeFi started over a year ago, about a year ago now, as a member-driven organization that includes many of the top projects in the DeFi space. Some of the most ambitious and forward-looking ones, many of which I'm not going to read them all here, but you can see them. And combined, these the member projects comprise a big chunk of the DeFi ecosystem and have a combined treasury certainly in the billions of dollars. What we've realized, though, is that the true strength of DeFi and multi-chain DeFi is the community that's grown, the users of these protocols and the active members that are participating in these protocols are really the true gem of DeFi. And Open DeFi has grown its DeFi community to over 10,000 members across multiple social channels. And we've had a lot of great accomplishments this year. We've produced 2 blueprints for security and vulnerability disclosures. As we all know, smart contract security, platform security, and cryptographic security is a big concern for DeFi, and these blueprint projects are already having an impact and helping to improve the security situation across DeFi. We've held about a dozen community events so far, not including this hackathon. Many different podcasts and tech talks, including some of the top projects in the space. Then there's this hackathon that we're all a part of, and I'm very excited to see the top projects that are coming out of it that are going to be coming up later in this program. We have over $200,000 in prizes, which is really incredible amount that's been generously provided by our members and other projects in the ecosystem. We're really proud of that. And last but not least, Open DeFi has had some successes with its Launchpad program, which is an incubation program that's launched over a dozen projects in the last year. And these are beginning to make a splash and continue to innovate in the DeFi ecosystem. And together we want to grow this DeFi community by another 10x in the next year. So really excited for that. So as I mentioned, the true strength of the Open DeFi movement is its community. And so, to recognize that and to really unlock that and kind of enable us all to work together, Open DeFi is transitioning from like a member-driven organization into a community-driven DAO that's going to be incubating and building the multi-chain DeFi ecosystem of the future. And it does this through a couple of ways, two main ways. One is through short-term yield strategies that makes use of ecosystem assets and project tokens in the Open DeFi treasury, and uses these for yield strategies in a multi-chain yield aggregator context. I'm going to talk a little bit more about multi-chain yield aggregation, and actually after me, Fazil's gonna talk quite a bit in detail on a project that focuses on that. Anyway, more about that in a moment. But the point there is that these yield strategies are going to generate fees that go back into the Open DeFi treasury in a capital reserve pool that's used for funding and used for funding new projects, new ecosystem projects. In other words, incubation activities. And also liquidity bootstrapping, right? Liquidity bootstrapping new projects and on emerging platforms, right? On new L1s and new L2s where the liquidity might not yet be there. And this sort of longer term strategies, essentially venture strategies that have a longer term horizon, are there to really build up the DeFi ecosystem. And in return, the Open DeFi DAO receives governance tokens from those projects and platforms back into the treasury, and as a whole, this forms essentially like a virtuous feedback loop that helps to grow the entire multi-chain DeFi ecosystem. So how is this DAO, the Open DeFi DAO, governed? So it's certainly going to be run by the community, by the Open DeFi community, and to join, all participants must do is get a hold of the governance token, and it's the governance token is staked in the DAO to unlock voting power in the DAO. And there's a number of ways that community members can participate, not only through voting. We've got plans later this year to launch an on-chain forum that participants can have engage in discussions and come up with proposals for voting. And essentially the participants will be voting in how the treasury, the Open DeFi treasury is spent, right, in both in terms of incubating projects and also in terms of which yield farming opportunities to pursue. And one of the things that I think is very cool about the Open DeFi DAO that we're introducing is this notion of a contributor token that members will earn, and it's a non-transferable, non-fungible token that's issued to members who make contributions, right, and both in helping with the operations of the Open DeFi DAO, as well as helping out and participating in the ecosystem projects that the Open DeFi DAO incubates and launches. So there's going to be a few different ways for community members to earn these contributor tokens, and we're coming up with some, I think, very interesting ideas about how these contributor tokens could be used. One way that we're looking at is that these contributor tokens can act as a multiplier for voting power and rewards in order to reward community members for their valuable and useful contributions to the Open DeFi ecosystem. So everyone knows that governance is hard, right? It can be very challenging in decentralized networks, and more so in decentralized networks that are kind of split across different blockchains and platforms. And one of the ways that we're gonna address that and to aid in governing the DAO is through applying what's called computer aided governance. And so there's sort of a few tools in that belt that can help help the DAO in making the best decisions possible, right? Both short-term decisions and long-term decisions. And a couple of those are data analytics, which can help visualize and find trends and help better understand what's going on in this rapidly evolving DeFi space. All in addition to that, machine learning and artificial intelligence will be used to make sense and find patterns in that data, right? Some things that would be difficult for human beings to do on their own, right? So definitely leveraging the latest in those technologies to help present the best evidence to the DAO members for voting. Then there's simulation modeling. That's sort of, I would say, it's very complementary to machine learning, in that simulation modeling is great for making kind of comprehensive models, integrative models of complex systems, such as the DeFi economy. And there's some fantastic tools that have been developed in and around the blockchain space, including CAD. And other tools that can be used there for modeling the DeFi ecosystem. And finally, and maybe most interestingly of all, we want to introduce sort of a gamified, if you will, competitive intelligence competitions, much like pioneered by Numerai and others, to help incentivize and make fun, make this process of gathering and providing evidence for decision-making processes, to make that like fun and competitive, and to reward people for doing it. So these are just some of the ways that Open DeFi DAO will incorporate computer-aided governance tools into its processes. So I mentioned cross-chain governance can be a challenge, but fortunately we have the honor and opportunity to work with some of the best leaders in the industry to develop cross-chain governance tools. So this past week, if you check out our Medium and our Twitter, you'll see that we've partnered and we're working with Gnosis to develop treasury vaults and cross-chain policy enactment to enact decisions across multiple blockchains. And we're also working with who's a leader in dispute resolution and arbitration systems, in blockchain. So, together we're going to be working on these cross-chain governance problems, and coming up with solutions for them, right? So stay tuned for more details. This is something that is under active development right now. So a little bit more about the technical architecture of the Open DeFi DAO. Kind of, right out of the box, by design, our DAO is going to be cross-chain compatible, and there's the idea of it, which and progressively we're going to introduce vaults across other L1s like Binance Smart Chain and Conflux, and we've also got plans to take advantage of some of the lower fee and higher throughput on platforms like Conflux to introduce things like an on-chain forum where members can hold discussions and do non-binding polling and different things like that. So we've also got more L1s in the pipeline, and so we're going to be releasing those plans as they get finalized and crystallized. So a key point in staying competitive and active and sort of up to speed with the latest developments in multi-chain technology is to remain agile, right, in both technological development and maybe even more importantly in our thinking, right, and in our planning. And so we want to launch kind of relatively quickly, right, to get rolling and to begin operations, and then we're going to progressively enhance the capabilities of the DAO by adding a variety of modules that are going to help with community coordination, to help improve security, to increase decentralization, and to also help scale the community to first to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, and then increasingly the world. So just to compare the Open DeFi DAO with some of out there, the Open DeFi DAO is fairly unique in that we're looking to work with basically any L1 or L2 network, whereas a lot of the other ecosystem DAOs have in the past have been focused on Ethereum. But again, we believe the future is going to be inherently multi-chain. So that's the reason for that. As far as permissions go, right, the Open DeFi DAO is fairly unique in that we're completely permissionless to join. All somebody needs to do is just get a hold of a token, and I'll say a little bit more about different ways to do that in just a moment. For other DAOs, it's fine if they have other models like needing to be part of a closed network or requiring KYC or other things, but we wouldn't be very much of an Open DeFi DAO if we actually had a closed membership. So it's really fitting that we have a token-based membership, and again, we've got a multi-chain governance token that we're going to be launching soon. Other DAOs, get by with having no tokens or having security tokens, but to take advantage of this new kind of idea of governance tokens, that's the route that we went, and we think it has I think the best trade-offs there. Finally, the Open DeFi DAO is probably the only one right now that's has a dual focus on both project incubation as well as liquidity provision and mining. So that's sort of another point where we're kind of differentiated from the pack, so to speak. On the topic of incubation, I don't want to steal Fazil's thunder. He's going to go right after me and talk a lot more about OptyFi, which is the first incubator project that's coming out of the Open DeFi DAO, and it's an intelligent multi-chain yield optimizer that kind of in real time finds the best yield opportunities across multiple blockchains. So me and some others have taken to calling them meta vaults, but I don't want to impose my terminology on on anyone. What's really cool is that OptyFi is going to be launching with vaults on a few different platforms, including Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and Conflux. And it searches through thousands of strategies a minute to find the optimal ones to engage in. And the Open DeFi DAO is going to be working closely with OptyFi to launch a couple of multi-chain vaults that are going to be native to the Open DeFi DAO. And over time, we see this kind of expanding and growing into a marketplace for competitive and sustainable cross-chain yields. So how do people join the DAO? Right? There's a few ways. There's a few ways to get the tokens, which as I mentioned, they're staked in the DAO for members to get to participate in governance and other activities. And probably the most interesting way I'm going to start with is the community awards system, where the Open DeFi DAO will be giving awards to community members who support the DAO operations in a few ways that I'm going to talk about on the next slide. But essentially, members of the DAO that support incubation activities and the operations of the incubator projects themselves will be eligible to receive governance tokens as an award for their contributions. Another way is we're going to be running a balancer liquidity bootstrapping pool in the coming weeks, and we're going to give people plenty of notice before it starts. We haven't nailed down the exact date, but it's expected to be in early July. And for those of you that don't know, a liquidity bootstrapping pool is a fair and permissionless IDO model that's becoming very popular this year. And this model, this type of pool, has been used to raise over $200 million this year. So stay tuned for more details on that. And then beyond the initial pool, we plan to have a number of different liquidity mining campaigns across different blockchains that people will get to participate in, where by staking the LP tokens from those farms, they'll be able to earn additional Open DeFi governance tokens. So there's going to be a few ways. So drilling down a little bit in terms of the ways that members can participate in order to earn those community participation rewards. One is by participating as a venture strategist. So a community member that identifies a gap or a challenge or an opportunity that's not being addressed in the DeFi ecosystem, and they can just try to find a team, or they can even start a project to address that need. There's a number of different ways and roles that these venture strategists can develop these incubation opportunities further, right? And for doing that, they're going to earn both governance tokens and contributor tokens. A second role is the more short-term yield strategists that are going to be essential for finding and forming these multi-chain farming strategies that we discussed, right? Third role is in order to support all of these other activities, technicians and technically minded people are going to be needed to do things like write Solidity code or audit code or run nodes or any other number of technical tasks and roles that that are needed in a DeFi ecosystem, and the Open DeFi DAO is going to reward those individuals for their contributions. And in this list, last but not least, are the data scientists and analysts that will be needed to collect data, to clean data, and to analyze it and to present it to the Open DeFi governance and polling and forums, in order for those chambers to make the best decisions based on evidence, right, rather than things like feelings or FOMO. So, in a nutshell, that's an intro to the Open DeFi DAO. Please, we'd love to hear from you. Come join our conversations happening on Twitter, Discord. Check out our Medium and our website for updates as well. So thanks everyone for listening to me.
Thanks a lot, Fazil. We'll get Fazil in here to start talking about Opti, which you mentioned briefly, the first incubated project of the DAO. There's a few community questions. We won't bite into too much of Fazil's time, but maybe we'll just go through a few of them, right? So how will DAO members access and see all the info brought by the computer-aided governance?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sammy. So we're planning to create a number of different parts of an online forum where the generators of these insights, the individuals that are generating these insights, can post and share those insights and discoveries. And then we're also talking to a few existing projects in the ecosystem that run their own competitions, and we're looking to partner with them as well to for both their learnings and also maybe we can look at working together on their platforms as well.
Yeah, for sure. We'll pass it on to Fazil now. Maybe just go into the chat and just answer the questions from Tung and Tommy. There's a few other questions there.
Sure.
All right, awesome. Let's pass it on to Fazil.
I'll go with the screen share. Can you just take it from me, Fazil, or do I have to? Let's see.
I think you have to cancel it.
If I just oh, here we are. Stop. There. Okay, I'll see you in the chat, and I'll see you guys.
Thanks, Merrick.
Thank you.
All right, Fazil, ready to go? You're on mute. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, so good morning, guys. Just would like to speak to you today about OptyFi. And this is actually sort of our first public presentation. We've been busy kind of building and with our heads down, and we're finally getting in to a stage where we're ready to share what we've been doing with the community. So this is the first one. Pardon me if it's not as smooth as it should be. So what is OptyFi? OptyFi is basically a yield optimization platform with three basic fundamental tenets, which are in the title. Simplified access to optimized yield across DeFi. So those three tenets are: we want to make access simple, we want to provide optimized yield, the most optimum yield possible, and we want to be, our scope is to be across DeFi, and when we say across DeFi, we mean across chains as well. I'm just going to close this. Yeah, so how do we go about doing that? Well, just a quick background. Everybody on the audience probably knows yield farming exploded DeFi last year and brought us from 600 million TVL to over 80 billion less than 18 months ago. And I can't keep updating my slides because it's changing, but please pardon me. But the point here is that although we've grown a lot, we're still in a very early stages. Coinbase, for example, has 56 million users. DeFi so far, according to estimates, is only 2 million. And so there's a lot of opportunity to improve the way we're doing things. So when we look at yield farming, we find that there's some challenges in today's yield farming environment. It's technical. You have to learn different protocols, different dApps. It's difficult. You have to account for changing APYs, changing fees, and it's demanding. You have to either continually rebalance your portfolio, or you have to know how to program a bot, right? And then if you fail, obviously there's this thing we call impermanent loss, which is really not as cute as this video, or there's like full-blown liquidation. On the tech side of things, we find there's also room for improvement. In terms of yield farming technology right now, we find it to be fragmented. You have isolated protocol-to-protocol integrations. It's also somewhat inflexible in that you have hard-coded yield strategies that can only do one thing. And they're coded as, single strategy programs. And then it's non-optimal in that oftentimes you have to switch between one strategy or another. You're using some kind of voting mechanism, some kind of manual mechanism. So what OptyFi proposes is the following. We propose a way of creating strategies that's composable. And that sort of, is in line with the whole principle and philosophy behind DeFi and blockchain, is that we can build strategies from other strategies, sort of like a strategies Lego. We also approach optimization from the point of view of optimal switching. So whatever the best strategy should be, we should be able to switch to it automatically. We also have an extensible yield network, which grows. And as it grows, it becomes more powerful. And then, obviously, we always want to keep in mind a simplified user experience where we're not just appealing to the DeFi power user, we're appealing to the user who's become acquainted with, let's say, Bitcoin or crypto and wants to take the next step into DeFi. And eventually, the user who uses today's fintech banking apps. If we look at current DeFi strategies, we notice like the following, and this may not be fully general, but in a lot of the cases. One strategy is a smart contract. If you want to create a strategy, you have to code a smart contract. If you want to select a strategy, it's often done by community voting. And the risk of the strategy is not explicitly defined. So basically, once a strategy is approved, the risk of it is approved. OptyFi takes a little bit of a different approach. We approach it from a very general and first principle basis. So for us, a strategy step is basically when you take any underlying token, you deposit into a pool and you get a pool token. So that's a simple step, regardless what the pool is, regardless what the token is, as long as you can deposit the token and get a pool token. Then if you can do that, you can start sequencing these things, right? So you can have underlying token goes into pool 1, and you get pool 1 token, and then you can, if that pool 1 token can be the underlying of a pool 2, you have a 2-step strategy possible. Now, where this becomes really powerful is where you start borrowing. So now you may deposit one token like DAI into a pool, but you're borrowing USDC. So all of a sudden, you can do USDC strategies. And if you just look at, a market with maybe 20 of these markets where you can deposit, borrow, 20 times 20 is 400. So it starts really expanding like the possible strategies. So if you approach strategies like this, what do you get? You actually get this. You start getting a graph. And this is basically, so far, OptyFi has integrated 9 protocols, about 145 different pools. And already our graph starts looking like this. So what this is, for example, if you have DAI, these are the different pools you can take DAI into, right? But then if you had 3 curve, you can go into these other pools and so forth. So what starts happening is, and this graph, by the way, doesn't show the borrow step. The borrow step, if I showed the borrow step here, this graph would become very dense. You'd see a lot of black because then you can really go all over the place, right? So what starts happening is if you start looking at DeFi like a graph, and again, this is across protocols and down the road, potentially across blockchains. But there's a lot of challenges before we get there. But still, so if you start looking at it like this, each edge on this graph is basically an APY. And if you chain 2 edges together, it's a path. You can combine those APYs. So that's essentially what when we talk about optimization, we're consistently looking at this graph, looking at the APYs and predicting what is the best path, what is the best strategy at the moment. And then our website, by the way, is just up. So in case anybody's interested, you can visit us at opty.fi. What we did is, when you look at strategies from a general perspective, you can start creating, and what we have done is essentially create a syntax for strategies. And this syntax is like a one-line code which our smart contracts can run. So you can have a zero-step strategy, a one-step strategy where the vault is just, so the zero-step is sort of like current yield farming where you're just holding on to an LP token in a vault, right? It applies to multi-asset LP vaults. These are similar to, for example, what Harvest.finance does, right? We have one-step strategies where the underlying vault is going into a pool and that's it. And you can have, like, you know, stable coins, you could have LP tokens, single asset LP tokens, multi-assets. You can have a one-step with borrow strategy. So you're depositing, for example, DAI into Aave, and you're borrowing USDC, and you're putting that into DForce. And then two-step with borrow, and so forth. So as you can see, this can compose with each other. So what part of the thing we've built is we've built smart contracts that can essentially take this command and execute it. So basically, it takes the coding, the hard coding, out of the smart contract. So we just have to discover what is the best strategy of the moment, recommend it to the vault, and the vault is able to run this strategy. So how does it all work? How does it all come together? Basically, every time we integrate a liquidity pool into our system, it creates new strategies. So all the current pools in our system create thousands of possible strategies, which were those paths on that graph. Our optimization engine constantly evaluates strategy APYs. Once we find what the best one is, we tell our smart contracts to execute any yield strategy within their constraints. So our smart contracts enforce what pools we can invest into, and they also enforce our risk framework. So we actually have a risk framework. It's also available on our website, but it's very general. It's basically, it can be customized to whatever the governance decides. So for example, we have, these are numbers, by the way, these numbers are wrong, so I don't want anybody to be offended. These numbers actually are wrong, but essentially these will be decided by governance. So pools, every protocol can be assigned some type of rating, T1, T2, T3. And then every strategy, whether if it's a single step, multi-step, with borrow, and what pools are included, these two factors will determine the risk of that strategy. So now we can tell our vault, hey, vault, we only want this vault to be running this risk profile. So I hope you can see what kind of possibility this creates. This lets us define different risk frameworks. We can have different entities, like we could have a future DeFi Standard & Poor's, a future DeFi Moody's, and the vault owner can decide which risk framework they want to apply. In any case, and the final step, of course, is the point of doing all this is the user's vault is being optimized into the most optimal strategy at any moment. Part of doing this in this way also accomplishes one more thing in terms of the ecosystem. You see, currently, a strategist who has to write a strategy from scratch, they have to wear many hats. They have to play the role of a coder, a portfolio manager, and a risk analyst, all of those combined. But in terms of OptyFi, we actually distinguish those roles. So we have a different, if you're a good coder and you know some protocol really well, you can just build integration. You can just integrate us with, for example, BarnBridge or with SushiSwap or something. And every time your integration will be used, you will make some portion of the fees that the protocol collects. So it's like build once and get paid forever. And because we're frequently switching, you'll make more, you will get paid more frequently, as opposed to a strategist who's, if their strategy is not voted in, then they did all the work, but they're not getting paid for it. Portfolio managers can now really focus in on on the strategy portion, right? So they can focus in on building these strategies with a syntax and deciding, instead of having to do all the coding work. Risk analysts, like I said, they can focus on risk, and data providers can provide data to the community, such as ranking portfolio managers. So we really want to foster like basically a financial ecosystem of specialized roles. And the user interface, what we're trying to do is accomplish a very clean and simple user interface. It has not been released yet. We're hoping to have it ready by sometime next month, at least for some kind of alpha/beta testing. But we're trying to keep it extremely simple and not intimidating for the user. Mind you, all the information that is on a typical yield aggregator, like Yearn, is available here. It's like you have to click here and all the information. So we have all the information. We're just trying to keep it very simple. And this is our team. Many of them are here, so maybe they'll say hello to you. So until now, we've been developing this project since about August, September. We've been a very heavily technical team. Just basically, if you can see up till here, it's technical. And then Matthew and Curtis are sort of new members who are on the business side of things. So we're trying to start building our community and so forth. In terms of milestones, we're upstage. We have version 1.0 code freeze. We have vaults running, optimization engine running, smart contracts. We've built 9 protocol integrations. We believe building protocol integrations is very easy with the way we've designed things. We really think it can be done like within the space of a week. You can add a new protocol. We've had a code audit, and of course, we have had an incubation by Open DeFi. In terms of roadmap, in July, we're hoping at the end part of July to launch on the Ethereum network, as well as doing an IDO on Balancer. Sometime in July, we're also going to be launching on a couple of other networks, although I've put it in here just to give ourselves some room. But in August, one of the things we want to do, and I'm very excited to speak to this audience, is we want to have a builder challenge, because we feel we've built a protocol that can really build integrations really fast. And as you've seen, each integration we built builds hundreds of new strategies for us, so it becomes more powerful. So we want to build into 30 days, 30 integrations. We really feel it's achievable. We'll be publishing a developer manual for that and putting it out there, and we hope the community can help us. And again, you build an integration, you get paid for the life every time that integration is used. There's a portion of fees you'll make, so it'll be lucrative for developers. So stay tuned for that. And then in terms of cross-chain, we have several chains in mind. EVM, we're going to start with some of the EVM-based ones. Polygon, Conflux, BSC, and we are speaking to Terra as well. So that's sort of our long-term plan in terms of, not long-term, I would say, short to mid-term plan in terms of cross-chain. And other than that, I sort of had a quick glimpse at how this stuff actually works. So this is our optimization engine. It kind of is going through all that graph and evaluating every single pool and seeing what the APYs are, right? In the end, it kind of outputs a result that shows all those points in those graphs, and it shows the APY. So this one, for example, it's showing, today he had BUSD, he deposited into Cream. I'm not sure why, but you're getting like 140% APY. But if you had DAI, deposit BZX, you would get 0.29, right? And then there it shows you some, two-step strategies. If you had USDC, deposit into Compound, and you took your C, USDC, deposit into Curve, it's 6. And these are yields without any kind of a reward. So they'll be much higher with the reward. This is the actual basic yield. And as you can see, there's a lot of strategies we cover. Potentially, if we had the borrowing step, thousands. So yeah, that's basically all I had for today.
Yeah, awesome, Fazil. We're gonna move on to the next item on the agenda, which is this panel for multi-chain DeFi with Polygon, Sushi, and obviously you'll be on board with Fazil also, with Merrick also. So we'll get everyone in there. But oh, looks like he dropped off. maybe you can just answer them in the chat then. We had one question for Opti specifically, which is from Floor, right? So there's a very interesting approach using the graph model. Are you using it to more model the current situation, or are you also optimizing the graph itself? So I don't know if we can get Merrick back, Fazil back in here to answer that. But if not, we'll get started on the panel so we can invite those people in. Also, another team member from Opti sent in the links for how you can connect with them. Hey, so if you want to join the Discord, I see some people are asking how you can get involved. You can check out their Discord link. They also have a Telegram set up and Twitter, so you can get more details on when the token's coming and when the DApp is launching. Who are we missing? Missing Sushi, and we're missing Fazil still. Let's get those people in. Hey, Rachel.
Hey, hello.
Good, good. So maybe we can get started. So we'll wait for Fazil to come back in, but maybe in the meantime, you guys can give a brief overview of who exactly you are, what the project you're working on, and what your role is there. So maybe see Fazil's on. Maybe Fazil, you want to start?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I missed that.
Yeah, sure. No, I was just saying we'll get started on the panel now. So maybe you can just give a brief overview. You didn't really start with it, so maybe you can just give a brief background on who you are, what you do, and yeah.
Or we can take questions from the community. I don't know, but my background. I don't know if there are any questions. Did we have some questions? Maybe we can answer those.
You want to answer the questions first?
Because I kind of just talked about OptyFi, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay, we'll go through one or two questions, but then maybe after the panel, you can just answer the rest of them. So the first one is there a plan to consider risk metrics like the Sharpe ratios?
Yes. So the plan is to build a framework where you can incorporate anything, right? So right now I showed you we're giving each protocol like a T1, T2, T3 rating, right? So down the road, somebody from the community can say, hey, I have a better system. I have a way of looking at, the Sharpe ratio of each pool and assigning them, making five different strategies, right? And if their system is right, we would adopt it as an OptyFi community. And then because Open DeFi is also using our vaults, they may say, hey, I don't like that system. I like system XYZ. And their vaults could potentially adopt a different risk system, right? So we think there's going to be roles where people are getting, paid, essentially earning fees for analyzing risk on a full-time basis, right? And that could be anything. And I think that's really cool, right? You really open up. Now, you don't just have Standard & Poor's and Moody's, these big organizations that have a name brand. Like, we actually have a community that decides which risk framework we want to use. So it's basically as open as you want to make it, the risk framework, and it's at the strategy level, right? So it's granular. So, we can, somebody can think borrowing is risky. Some people can think borrowing is not risky, for example, right? So it depends how you want to configure your vault.
For sure. There's like a bunch of other questions. So maybe either Matthew can answer them in the chat, or we can get to them after.
Okay.
We'll do a Q&A at the end of this, so we'll have a few more questions, I imagine. So we'll jump into the panel now. We have Hamza from Polygon. We have Rachel from SushiSwap. And then obviously you guys have just met Merrick and Fazil. So I'm pretty sure they're just setting up like the camera and mic and everything. So maybe Merrick, you want to start on your background and how you got involved in crypto?
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad, if everybody had their cameras on. I hate seeing myself, so if I can do it, I'm sure everybody can stomach it. But yeah, anyway, so as you know, my name is Merrick. I just finished introducing the Open DeFi DAO. I've been around the blockchain space for a couple of years now. I used to teach data science at the Schulich School of Business, where I co-founded the Blockchain Lab and the Blockchain Hub. And through that, I helped to develop the blockchain community and ecosystem in Toronto through educating entrepreneurs, advising their projects, and other roles as well. Then through my role as CTO of Novera Capital, I helped develop some of the technologies that would get institutions into Bitcoin, blockchain, and DeFi before it became popular and cool. So in effect, I'm one of those DeFi hipsters that was, I was doing it before it was cool. And then when that company was bought for its technology, I started helping out at Block Science as a researcher, helping many top blockchain projects, some of which are in the top 100, to develop out their token economics. And then more recently, I joined Open DeFi to advise on technology and act kind of like a cat herder to help transition Open DeFi into a DAO. And that's how I got to be on this excellent panel today.
Awesome. Fazil, you want to?
Yeah.
Intro?
Sure. Just briefly, I have a computer engineering from University of Toronto. Then I have a computer science from U of T in machine learning, and also a degree in finance. So basically, half my career has been spent in building software systems, and the other has been spent in proper finance, portfolio management. So what brings me to DeFi in the first place was I've always been an entrepreneur. I worked for, I think, 1 year of my life, and after that I said no, I want to do my own thing. So I've always been like kind of anti-establishment. So what I found really cool, and I hated the whole, when I was in finance, there's like this insider club, you got to be a member of it, you got to like get into it, you got to get into it as intern, work your way up, make connections. I know somebody. I just got very tired of that. I think this is the new way to go. I've seen so much like fraud, non-transparency. Your ledger's in the open. What you're doing, your performance is right there. You're not waiting for an audit to tell investors a year later that they don't have any money in your portfolio. So that's really what drew me to DeFi. And the other thing is regulation. Like being in finance, you spend 90% of your time in licenses and regulation, 10% innovation. In DeFi, it's the other way, right? So we did all this work, and now we're finally talking to lawyers. And the only reason we're doing that is because we're going to launch and we're thinking of having a token. So for me, like the innovation, the ability to build finance like software, what draws me here, and which is what I love, and that's why I love doing what I do now.
For sure. I see, Hamza, you've joined. Maybe you want to give a brief background on yourself and Polygon? You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, firstly, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm Hamza. I lead DeFi here at Polygon, all things DeFi here at Polygon. I started in this space, I think in 6-7 months back with Polygon itself. Although I've been in and out of crypto since 2017. Back in college, when I was in college, so I did my mechanical engineering, but was more interested in the tech side of things. So worked in investment banking for 2 years at Citi. So have this sort of financial data background from there. But yeah, then since then, I mean, crypto just made sense after seeing the traditional finance world and all of that. So yeah.
You're on mute, Sammy.
Yeah, sorry, I was just saying it's great to have you here, Hamza. Just want to pass it on to Sushi before we get into the questions. Just maybe, Rachel, you can give a brief background on yourself and brief intro on Sushi.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Thanks so much for having me here. My name is Rachel, and I'm the product manager at SushiSwap, and really happy to be here today to talk more about multi-chain as well as the roadmap of Sushi. And yeah, really happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's just jump right into it. So I think what's interesting about this panel is all these projects have a different approach and a different reasoning for why DeFi must go cross-chain, right? So maybe you can just explain how your project is helping scale DeFi and what you guys are doing to help accelerate like the liquidity and development of like DeFi on other networks. I don't know who wants to start. Maybe Hamza.
Going cross-chain, I think So we are a solution, right? So any project that wants to build that is priced out on Ethereum and wants to build on Polygon, we are more than happy to welcome them. And with the current DeFi summer that is happening on Polygon, I mean, like there are a lot of use cases. There are a lot of Legos, DeFi Legos, if I may call. Like SushiSwap has about 800, 900 million liquidity. Then QuickSwap is there. So it just makes sense to utilize these yield sources on Polygon. And with what Polygon has specifically done is has made this process of L1, L2 communication very simple. And so a lot of projects like Aave do their governance on L1 and allow the governance impact to happen on L2. Similarly with Curve and some other projects will be passing fees from L2 to L1. So it's just like it's like think of it's like the head office on layer 1, and layer 2s you can have your franchisees or branch offices that are paying dividends and paying fees back to the mother chain, which is Ethereum mainnet. So it just makes sense to expand out to different layer 2s and add more revenue sources basically.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe Fazil, you want to speak about what you guys are doing cross-chain and why you value it?
Yeah, so I think the key is like our fundamental view is that the back end should become transparent to the user. Right? I mean, it should just not be there. Like today, when we go on the internet, we're not looking at what server we're connecting to, right? So really, the front end. So we are firmly in the front end, and sort of like a middle front end. So we think like the back end is the network, right? And then you have the next layer. So the analogy is the network is the hardware, right? And the backend servers are like the fundamental building blocks, like the DEXs and the lending protocols, right? And then you have a middleware, which are us optimizers, right? And then you have the front end, which should be a very slick app that should just go across everything. So we see it from that perspective. Some of the challenges we see so our approach is going to be to first be parallel cross-chain. Parallel cross-chain means we're going to be cross-chain. User will unfortunately have to click a button, say, I'm on Polygon, I'm on, just the way Aave does it and so forth, right? But as soon as these bridges get so there's two ways. The bridges get faster, or we have liquidity on both sides of the fence. And we have something outside of it, like at a higher level than the network, that is able to move that liquidity around. That's, I think, where the our optimization layer can start playing a role. The thing is, the way we developed it is we build the abstraction layer on top, right? So for us, if we're viewing multiple networks as part of our graph, we can do the optimization at that level. It's just getting the parts, like the connectivity, to work with each other, that we kind of have to work at the same pace as that. But from a perspective of looking at the network, we can see what the best strategy is. Now, getting our funds into that one, like it's going to be, we have to obviously work with the technology that's available to us. So that's kind of our take on how things will develop, we feel.
For sure, Merrick.
Oh, okay. I was checking to make sure I'm off mute. Yeah, of course. So, I believe that, the open DeFi community is probably the best versed in terms of DeFi. Many have been around. Many of the community have been around since DeFi summer or even before that, and they're going to be the best all around at discovering the most optimal new opportunities and challenges that are presented in sort of this new world of multi-chain DeFi. So with the community's input on the governance and operations of the Open DeFi DAO, we'll help address these opportunities, in I think 3 main ways, right? One is incubating new projects that address these new opportunities and challenges arising in the multi-chain DeFi ecosystem. And for that, we'll be providing various kinds of support, varying from the technical to business development to bootstrapping liquidity and yield farming on these new platforms and apps. And I think that one focus we have that's fairly unique is helping the multi-chain DeFi community grow and mature, both in the size of the community and also in helping individual members of these communities, of our community, progress in their own career path through our contributor token system. and that is to allow even anonymous and pseudo-anonymous individuals to accrue essentially a digital resume based on their activities. And have sort of an identity accrued to them, and this will sort of identify individuals as being somebody trustworthy from a both technical and ethical perspective. And I think a third way, actually, there's a third way, is that we're working on a number of partnerships that we're not quite ready to announce yet. That we're going to be offering grants for public good type projects that will be of benefit to the entire DeFi ecosystem as a whole. So I think those are the ways.
Yeah, for sure. I think Rachel's just having some connection issues, but if you're there, Rachel, maybe you want to just If you want to just speak briefly on why take Sushi multi-chain, what is the need for Sushi being on multiple chains?
Yeah, definitely. So I think there are three main ways that Sushi has been expanding multi-chain. First is obvious community, and Sushi has pretty much the largest community in DeFi, and we're definitely hoping to engage with other protocols and engage with other projects community members to expand multi-chain and at different horizontals. I think second one is probably product rollouts. And at Sushi, I think we're growing beyond an AMN, right? And we're building a suite of products ultimately to an ecosystem that we're hoping to bring to different partnerships on multi-chains that we're on right now, say Polygon, right? I think lastly is probably incentives. We're definitely a profit sharing community where we want to incentivize our community members and projects to continue to build this DeFi Lego. And I think we'll continue to do that over the next decades and continue to work with Open DeFi and other protocols.
Awesome. Yeah, let's just dive right into the questions then. First question's for you, Fazil, regarding Opti, right? So I think like being a yield aggregator, right, the focus is often on capturing the multiple billions of liquidity that's circulating on Ethereum, right? Can you explain what is the need for bringing yield aggregators to other chains where it's often a fraction of the liquidity that's circulating on Ethereum? And why there needs to be a yield aggregator, so early in their ecosystem?
Well, I think the answer to that question is from a principal perspective, right? We really feel like the back end and blockchain should be abstracted from like the casual user. So from a principal perspective, we need to start building those interfaces into different chains and getting good at it, because it's really daunting for a user to say, okay, I'm on this network, and he could be on a test network. It could be Kovan. I have Kovan, I have Polygon. I think that interface eventually something needs to be done about it if you want to welcome the next, 20, 30, 40, 50 million people to DeFi. I also think the narrative of liquidity is changing just because of fees. I think some of the chains will allow different types of innovation. I think Ethereum doesn't have a stranglehold on innovation, and that's what draws me to DeFi in the first place. So I think, I think we've seen it already. Like the speed with which Polygon has grown is like insane, right? So I think respects to Polygon is they've kept the Ethereum base, but also done, given us scalability, right? So they've achieved. So those type of innovations are going to happen, and liquidity is going to flow. And I think for users to be sitting around chasing liquidity across networks is not their job, right? That's the job of that middle/front end to do. So that's why we're doing it. It's not necessarily for day one liquidity. It's just because that is the future.
For sure. And then I have another question for Rachel, right? So Sushi has plans to be on 9 chains, whether you mentioned earlier, like whether some dApps, some of the dApps from Sushi will be on some chains and some of the dApps will be on other chains. What is like the thought process and what is like the criteria for picking a new chain to deploy Sushi on, right? And more importantly, how will this liquidity not become fragmented, and how do you plan to grow TVL on all of these new networks?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say probably, the incentives behind picking these chains, first of all, is strategic values that we can bring to our community, as well as strategic values with our respective partnerships, and how we can work together to really create a couple sections, right? Accessible, capital efficient, community incentive, and trustless environment. I think for us, growing TVL, I really think is like, how can we bring the most fruitful product with most incentives to community and projects, and work from there. And lastly, as a product manager, I really think it's important to have products that most fit the communities, right? So that's pretty much what I think. Yeah.
For sure. And this sort of floats over to you, Merrick. Like you mentioned earlier about like a core value of Open DeFi and the DAO is sort of to diversify this treasury of assets, which will initially start, comprised of its native token and the fees flowing in from the yield act. And you want to eventually make it like the largest treasury of cross-chain assets in DeFi, right? What are some of the ways that you plan to utilize the treasury assets? And in parallel with like growing your own DAO, how will it also benefit the greater multi-chain DeFi ecosystem?
Yeah, great, great question, Sammy. So first off, like our assets in the treasury definitely won't be idle, right? And there's two main ways that we're gonna apply them in order to diversify and grow the treasury. The first is through identifying and executing short-term DeFi strategies to bootstrap liquidity on new platforms that include side chains, roll-ups, or independent blockchains entirely, right? And we'll be utilizing the best in blockchain bridging technologies such as shuttle flow to rapidly deploy liquidity to where it's going to be most effective. Some of the exciting things that we're doing, and we'll expand in the future even more, is using predictive analytics in the form of AI and machine learning to forecast where this liquidity will be most effective, both in bootstrapping activity as well as growing the TVL of our own treasury. The second is the more long-term venture style strategies that I talked about earlier. And that includes, when Open DeFi incubates projects, it will by and large exchange governance tokens with the incubated projects. These are tokens, right? These governance tokens are tokens that the Open DeFi community can use to participate by proxy in the governance of the incubated projects. And beyond that, ensures the success of the ecosystem. I'll explain a little bit more about what I mean by ensuring the success of the ecosystem, maybe with like a little bit of a story, right? One of the privileges I've had over the last year was working closely with the team at Block Science, including Michael Zargam, the founder there. And one of the conversations I had recently was about a concept that in the Japanese corporate space called, I believe it's pronounced kiretsu. So apologies if I'm mispronouncing it. And Japanese firms have been doing this for years, where they form industry alliances in which the companies own small portions of shares in one another. And the idea is by owning shares in one another, they incentivize cooperation. I've had too much of this boomer juice here, boomer fuel. So basically they form these alliances, and it's in incentivizing cooperation because they own small portions of each other. It's possible to ensure the long-term success of the industrial ecosystem as a whole. And we believe in a similar fashion, we can grow, both the multi-chain DeFi ecosystem and our treasury.
Yeah, for sure. One for Hamza now, a bit on the other side of cross-chain DeFi and like the main conversation there. So you guys recently revealed like more details on this upcoming layer 2 SDK, right? Can you give us a brief overview of one, what you're trying to accomplish with this, and two, why a connected ecosystem of L2s makes more sense than focusing efforts on building out the current commit chain?
No, definitely that it makes sense for a lot of ways, like because with projects, that are going cross chain, liquidity will definitely get fragmented, and the idea with this SDK is to allow projects to scale, because so on this POS chain currently we have a throughput of 7,000 TPS, which is like okay, it's higher than Ethereum a lot, but we see even with some solutions that we have, so essentially like Web3 applications, these applications will get choked out if not today, when DeFi on Polygon becomes 2x from here or 3x from here, which will it's fine. It will definitely go up a lot from here. And that in a sense will choke these players out. The TPS gas cost will be higher for them, and for a Reddit or a Twitter or even like a app like Polymarket to scale these betting platforms that are on top of Polygon, it makes sense to have a separate set of security standards for them on a separate chain, application specific chain, which we are seeing, likes of Cosmos or even like Polkadot, even like Polkadot, the parachain concept. It makes a lot of sense. What we believe will work with us for us even more is like we have this alignment to Ethereum, not just like culturally but also like technically in the architecture. So that definitely plays a lot. We don't have to rely on our own security standards, but on Ethereum security standards. So that makes things easier for us. Coming to the layer 2 side of things, so Uniswap, you're seeing the Uniswap optimism is there. Then Arbitum recently, what is happening? So it will go to Arbitum as well, most likely. So yeah, liquidity will definitely be fragmented. So there'll be a lot of arbitrage opportunities for the simple traders. Yield will be higher there or on a money market over there, and Aave might be a different yield. So people can arb in between, bots can arb in between. There are a lot of bridges, trustless bridges being built that will ease this, like Thorchain, Connects. These are great solutions, and definitely like it just makes sense. For a trader, for a DeFi user, basically, and that's what all of these applications are doing, and we want to provide that infrastructure for that.
Cool. Yeah. Wanted to like just open the floor in general, just for like an open discussion. And everyone sort of might have like everyone might have a different answer here, right? Because everyone's sort of working on something different. But it'd be interesting to know, in your experience, building cross-chain applications and applications that share data and assets across multiple chains, like what has been the biggest roadblock from either a technical or business perspective that you've come across? Maybe Merrick, you want to start?
Yeah, for sure. First challenge, I think, is from a business perspective. Is I would say it's blockchain maximalism of different stripes, right? There's people out there that don't want to hear about the possibility of DeFi going multi-chain, even though in retrospect it'll be seen as inevitable, right? And regardless of whether people believe that Ethereum will be the winner take all sort of in the blockchain wars, they have to believe that the future is going to be multi-chain, because the scaling solutions proposed for Ethereum are effectively multi-chain anyway, whether you're talking about side chains, roll-ups, or sharding or whatnot, right? And at that point, many users are going to say, hey, I'm using multiple blockchains anyway, and they're going to open up to the possibility of using other platforms entirely. Some users may prefer lower fees elsewhere and don't really have a preference for maximal decentralization, which is what we've seen happen with Binance Smart Chain earlier this year, and we're starting to observe now with Polygon and Solana and others as well. And a little
bit choppy.
New types of DeFi applications. Well, yeah. If you heard that first part, maybe I'll just end it there. The breakneck speed of innovation is also a challenge, but it's one that we embrace, right? It's essentially innovation.
For sure. And with you, Hamza, it's think it's more on the technical side of things, or maybe it's on the business side of things. When you first released Polygon, like what were some of the issues you were finding with maybe the Ethereum community or other networks, and maybe it has something to do with the bridge or liquidity? What were some of the challenges you faced when trying to scale Ethereum? And it's because you were one of the first scaling solutions, right? When it was just Matic, it was one of the first like scaling solutions on Ethereum. So it'd be interesting to know what were some of those problems that you faced initially.
Yeah, definitely. Like just 4 months back, I think our liquidity, our TVL was, I think, 300 million, around 300, 200 million. And now I don't know, it's about 8, 9, 10 billion dollars. So yeah, like that initial threshold was honestly very high, because our bridge worked absolutely fine. Our bridge currently is probably the most decentralized bridge, and that gratefully nothing has happened in these past 4 months. Like no funds have been lost with any user, although like the bridge works in a way that all the transactions have to be validated by the 100 validators. So it takes time due to the Ethereum congestion, but nothing has gone wrong, and people have started to appreciate that. Even during this recent crash last weekend, people were able to play properly with Aave. Nothing went down. Or RPC, some of the issues were there, but that is there with pretty much any. If you are not using Infura or anything, that's like it's inevitable. Like public RPCs are bound to like go down at this point of time. But yeah, on the other side, I think initially before Aave, QuickSwap had like about 200 million, and that was it. So getting people in the DeFi side, to build on Polygon was, to be honest, difficult. But then, NFTs and gaming, we were the biggest, probably the biggest player with almost all of the big games on Polygon. Aave got Chain on the NFT side, and yeah, OpenSea was there before that as well. And OpenSea, Arcane, all of these NFT marketplaces were there. But yeah, I think DeFi was difficult, and Aave with the first integration solved a lot of things for Polygon.
For sure. And maybe Rachel, you can speak a bit to, I noticed with the chains that you are deploying on, they are all EVM compatible, which definitely makes things a bit easier. But then, you think about some of the other growing ecosystems like Solana, and then maybe obviously there's Moonbeam with Polkadot, but maybe other parachains, and then Cosmos. Is there plans to like develop on chains that are not necessarily EVM compatible or written in different smart contract languages? And does the Sushi team like see that as a challenge, or are you mainly focused on just EVM like networks at the moment?
Yeah, I think over the past couple of months, we've deployed on a lot of chains. I mean, speaking of challenges, I think the side chains and commit chains are all relatively new ecosystems. So the typical support infrastructure we're accustomed to is still not there yet, right? So I think over the span of period, we're still trying to improve and have our own custom solutions in the meantime, so that that'll best be accustomed to our community and the community otherwise. And in terms of deploying on other chains that are not EVM compatible, we're definitely considering, and we're definitely working very hard on that as well. And I think it all depends on how our communities really want to be on, right? So.
For sure. And Fazil, like you're in a not sticky situation, but in a unique situation. Definitely there's not a lot of projects sort of like with what OptyFi is trying to do, there is a big dependency on all these different strategies and dApps. I imagine I already know the answer for this, but like in your experience, like what has been the biggest challenges you faced when looking at other networks and trying to deploy on them?
I think well, first of all, being Ethereum compatible, it really helps us, right? Because then it's more a matter of just finding the addresses for the liquidity pools, plugging them in, and then we can deploy our contracts, right? So that really is a baby step. It's an easy step for us. So I think the Ethereum compatibility trend has really helped the multi-chain ecosystem, to be honest, right? However, We're very interested to see some of the other stuff, like what comes out of the Cosmos ecosystem with the, with DOT and all that. So, yeah, I think for us, there's enough there just with the Ethereum to start with, right? Like we're looking at Polygon. I mean, today Polygon is a great place for us to be, because you got like QuickSwap, you got SushiSwap, you got Curve, you got Aave, right? And 3 out of those 4 we already have integrations for. So we want to work on basically QuickSwap and SushiSwap, what we're doing anyways, right? That's already a big that's an optimization problem, right? There's a lot of pools and trying to do that. I had an article, this Aave, if you just try to optimize Aave, it's a difficult job, right? So I think we actually have a lot of work. Like there's no shortage of where we can go. I think places like Polygon are like a natural first step for us, and potential BSC. I just have sometimes concerns with the volatility on BSC, but yeah. And then, there's issues we face, like perception. Will our community want to go on BSC or not? Because there's this whole, political side of things. But we are really I think we want to get the multi-chain system working, right? We want to go 2 or 3 places, get that working, and then hopefully we can grow from there.
Yeah, for sure. You bring up an interesting point with Polygon, right? Right now, like obviously, majority of the network activity is on this commit chain. But then expanding out Hamza, let's say there's some roll-ups that come out, and then there's some whatever. There's just a bunch of different L2 solutions that start rolling out on Polygon. What are you guys gonna, or what would you say to someone like OptyFi, someone like Fazil, when they're looking at like integrating with Polygon? What would make the most sense for them to start looking at integration? Would it be just this commit chain for now, and then later on, you'll see different DeFi applications deploying on other L2s deployed on Polygon, right?
Yeah, I think for at least a couple of months, in fact, the next quarter, I would say the POS chain, the commit chain would make more sense, because in the end, DeFi is all about composability and ecosystem. And if you are sitting on a desert or some ghost chain, which is just not ready yet, it does not make sense for something like a yield aggregator that or the project is. It just does not make sense yet. But yeah, like I said, there will be some implementations on that side. We are that is in private beta on the SDK side of things. So with the standalone chain, some projects will be deploying there as well. But yeah, that is some time down the line. But yeah, with the current ecosystem that we are building, so I don't think you'll have to go anywhere, because like almost 80-90% of the Ethereum blue chips are now deploying on Polygon. Like anyone you think of are deploying on Polygon in the next 1-2 weeks.
And with you, Merrick, like obviously when you've been developing the DAO and focusing on this multi-chain deployment, I'm sure there must have been like a ton of research that went into what is the best roadmap? Like, where do we go next? Do you see in the next few months projects going to new L1s, or do you see them going to L2s?
Yeah, I think it's going to be both, right? Or actually all of the above, right? If it's a multiple choice question, right? For the reason that, different applications have, different needs from one another, right? And also, consumers, users, the community have different preferences as well, right? In terms of what they care about in terms of, let's say, the fees versus decentralization sort of spectrum, right? So I think that the future is going to be even kind of more diversified. So I think the answer to your question is yes, both.
And then I see there's just one other question, like it sort of fits what I said. Like, what is Open DeFi looking at, like when you're choosing which chain to work with next, or what chain to integrate next?
Yeah, so certainly, things like whether there's a user base there or not. Things like whether bridges are available, or whether that's something that's in the works for those chains. Really, looking at things like fees, developer support, scalability. Those are I think sort of three of the main things that we look at. Definitely.
Let's see if there's any other question. I think Fazil, we can answer one or two more questions about Opti. What do we have here? How can we participate as developers, not exactly Solidity devs?
Well, we have basically the roles are Solidity devs would be building integrations to protocols. For example, portfolio managers could be proposing strategies. Risk analysts could be proposing risk framework, like what kind of metrics, how should we measure the risk of, for example, Aave versus Curve, LP pools versus stablecoin pools, stuff like that. So if your thing is risk, we'd love to hear from you. And then data providers, because all of this analytics needs a lot of data, right? And it's not simple. So just a service that provides chain data in an optimal form, and there's nothing you can kind of view the interest rates and how they're changing over time dynamically, like a trading view, right? For example, we have that internally, but there's no system for the community to do that, right? So there's lots of different roles. I guess it's a good question to ask on our Discord. But the first big push is going to be 30 days, 30 protocol integrations. That's going to be our first big push in August. And we're going to give you a manual, exact manual, and that's going to kind of just say A, B, C, D. It's almost like you're part of our internal dev team. The manual, the same manual, you submit it. We do our QA, we audit it, and we integrate.
Awesome. I think we'll start wrapping up here. Yes, exactly, Rajat. That's what we're gonna jump into next, the Open DeFi Hackathon winners. So we're gonna invite Connor on stage from the Gitcoin team, who's gonna help give a brief overview of what we just did with Gitcoin, our hackathon. And yeah, it looks like Sushi and Polygon already dropped off. So thank you guys if you're still in the chat. Yeah, no problem, Hamza. And thanks, Fazil. Thanks, Merrick. I'm sure if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can just get to you in the chat. So maybe we can bring Connor up on stage now.
There we go.
There we go.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, all good.
Awesome.
So that's you.
Appreciate the talk, guys. That was great. Cool. All right. So I guess let's dive into it. So my name's Connor. I work on Gitcoin. Been working on Gitcoin for a couple of years now. I was at Consensus before that. So a long time, been into DeFi, and it's really cool to see kind of everything that's came up and the potential that we're seeing now, especially as we kind of hear from the last few speakers. But I'm going to talk quickly about the hackathon that we just ran. So let me share my screen. All right. I think you guys can see my screen. Let me know if not. But yeah, so Gitcoin, we're at a really exciting point in our life where we actually just released our own governance token this week. So things have been pretty crazy, but if you haven't seen that, come do check it out. If any of you have used Gitcoin before for bounties, hackathons, donated to grants, you very well may have an airdrop and be able to participate in the DAO that we're building. But if you're not familiar with Gitcoin, so we are a platform to basically fund open source and open source developers. So we have a bounties platform, we have a grants donating platform that uses quadratic funding. We do virtual events, hackathons, incubators, much more. And so we've gotten over $20 million paid out to open source developers in the Web3 ecosystem. And while we started on Ethereum, we've definitely been expanding out to other chains. We also really believe in a multi-chain future, as was discussed. So really excited to see a lot of these projects kind of come about that enable interoperability and much more. So yeah, before I dive into the hackathon, if you do go to Gitcoin and you log in and you have an account, you should be able to see right around here if you do have any tokens. This wasn't the point of the talk, but I just wanted to flag because we do want as much involvement as possible. We want people to be voting on these proposals to help us decide, how we distribute the grants matching funds. And for context, we do a grants matching round once per quarter. The next one's coming up starting June 16th. The last one had a $500,000 matching pool and saw over $1.3 million donated by the community. So they're really exciting times. But again, this is not what I'm here to talk about. I just wanted to flag.
Connor, actually, maybe it would be really cool, like, because I think Open DeFi and Gitcoin, that's why we work together, is because we share a lot of the same values, right? So it'd be interesting to know your approach to sort of like what the Gitcoin token is and what its purpose and value is.
Absolutely, yeah. So the Gitcoin token does not have any economic value that our team is prescribing to it or paying attention to. It is purely a utility governance token. And so, we joined the Open DeFi consortium, I think about 2 months ago. This token has kind of been in the works since even before that. But basically, Gitcoin Grants is an experiment in quadratic funding where we raise funds from the community to help fund public goods. And that community, we have donors from, big DeFi projects, exchanges, the Ethereum Foundation. And so we've gotten a lot of community support. But one of the biggest criticisms is that, it's still pretty centralized. Like the funds are held in a multi-sig with a few different community members. But us as Gitcoin, we're still the ones that, have to make the final say on what constitutes a public good, what's an eligible grant, what the round sizes are. So for example, last round, we had the categories of like NFTs, infrastructure, dApps, community and media. And so we kind of divide the funds up between those different categories to decide, which pools get how much funding. But we don't want to be making those decisions. We want to kind of hand this off to the community. So in addition to this token, we are really searching for ways to decentralize Gitcoin. So make this quadratic funding mechanism more of a protocol where anyone can build their own front end, anyone can use it. But the tokens, have went out to past Gitcoin contributors and donors. And we want them to vote to let us know like how we should, move forward with this protocol. And so I think if any of you did do this, we spent a lot of time on the user experience for the actual token airdrop. You have to go through a bit of like a couple videos, a couple quizzes to understand what it's for, and then we actually gave people the ability to delegate their tokens immediately to a set of stewards, and anyone can apply to be a steward. And essentially, the community can delegate their tokens to you. And the goal with this was to really get more participation. A big problem with DAOs and governance is that a lot of people don't participate. So by allowing delegation, we're hoping we get a lot more input from the community, where smaller people don't necessarily have to vote on every proposal, but they can give their voting power to someone in the community that their values align with. So we're really excited about kind of kicking off the Gitcoin DAO and decentralizing Gitcoin grants. And so, yeah, so I didn't build this myself. I'm really impressed with what the designers and the product team were able to do here, because it's a really cool experience. So do check it out.
Yeah, it looks dope.
Yeah, and I definitely want to work with, the Open DeFi team. Like you guys are launching your own DAO. Our vision is kind of a DAO of DAOs in the future that, could maybe spin off of this. And, we're certainly open to figuring out how we can collaborate with other communities that, have similar goals and mindsets. Yeah,
for sure. I imagine we'll find multiple ways to work together through some like DAO to DAO collaboration, something super out there, something super cool.
Yeah. But so less about Gitcoin, like, this is more about the hackathon and the projects that we saw come out of it. At Gitcoin, we have this bounties platform, and we have like a virtual events platform where we do exclusive hackathons, open hackathons, bug bounty programs, incubation programs. And so our virtual events side of the business has definitely ramped up over the past year or so. And so this one was really exciting because, it started off us working with Open DeFi more, it was technically like an exclusive event, right? And so we were working with the Open DeFi team, Conflux, and all of the members to put together a hackathon here. But what was really great is, everyone was fully open to additional sponsors as well. So obviously we have all the members here, but, we opened it up to the larger community, and, some projects that, aren't necessarily part of Open DeFi, but maybe will be in the future, we're able to join and, generally we just wanted to see some really cool DeFi projects built. So appreciate everyone, all the sponsors who took part, and of course all the hackers and developers who ended up submitting projects. So yeah, as you can see, this was like a 3-week event. It just wrapped up a few days ago. And I think some of the judging may still be in progress, but a lot of the winners have been picked and the projects have been reviewed. And so just to look at some stats total. So we had 18 sponsors. We had, I think the number should be higher than this. I think it's missing a few, but somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000 of prizes. Almost 1,000 people signed up. 600 of which were actually new to Gitcoin, which is like awesome to see. We're trying to grow the community and also reach out to other project communities. And so we always like to see this number get really high. But yeah, and so we saw over 130 projects that were started and 78 final submissions at the end of the day, which we'll be hearing from very shortly. So yeah, that's kind of all I had to say. I just want to reiterate again, thank you to all the sponsors who joined us, who added some bounties here. Really excited to see the projects. Personally, I haven't been able to dig in and really examine the best projects and the winners. It's just been a crazy week with the token airdrop and the launch and everything. But that's why I'm excited to hear from them directly. And I think the next half an hour, 45 minutes, we're going to be talking with some of the hackers and seeing some live demos. So
yeah, exactly. So we invited a few of the hackathon winners. Like you said, the judging is still going on for a few of the bounties. But today we have the IOSG Kickstarter bounty hacker winner, Hummingbots, Secret Network, and Oasis Protocol. So we have a few different winners here. They're going to be going through some demos, some really cool submissions. It's surprising that these guys are able to spin this stuff up in 3 weeks, right? A lot of them don't even start until the end. So it's crazy, the speed of development that some of these projects are going with. So I see we have the Abode Me team here. We'll start with them. This is the IOSG Kickstarter winner. So this is an interesting bounty. This bounty was co-sponsored by OpenDefi and IOSG and OpenZeppelin. So it was 3 projects coming together. IOSG's new Kickstarter program is an incubator, a launch pad. We'll be going over them a bit later, so I won't speak too much about them. And then OpenZeppelin came in with this new Defender tool, which is basically an auditing tool, automated auditing tool that projects can use and plug in. So the winner of this bounty, which is About Me, we'll dive into it now. They have $6,000 in credit for this new auditing tool, and I'm sure we'll take a look into that and share more details on their experience with that too. So maybe Gianmarco, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, you want to hop on screen and show About Me?
So hello everyone, and thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be the first one to showcase. It was really nice as my first experience actually in the DeFi world, and with Gitcoin, I was pleased actually to see how much support and thriving the community is. So anyway, let's jump into About Me. So let's share my screen. Can you see it?
Yep.
Can you see? Perfect. So the idea behind About Me came off just thinking about the weekend and the summer that's going to be, at least for a few of us. The blockchain actually offers a lot of potential to completely transform how we manage vacation rental industry. Web3 technologies can provide property manager more control over their digital assets, increase the security of payments, and improve loyalty of customers. Here is how we managed to derive an idea from that. First of all, we must ask ourselves, why DeFi? Well, the blockchain offers us the opportunity to create new ways to interoperate and to manage payments. This is why we picked mainly 3 sponsors outside the blockchain world, especially working on Ethereum. One of these is Superfluid. Superfluid is a decentralized application that allows you to move payments from the traditional one way to a fluid, a cash flow style, where you pay on a second basis. So instead of having you to decide how long you want to stay in a certain location, a certain house, you just pay as you go. And once you're ready to leave, you block the payment, you stop and close the flow. In this way, you don't need to decide how long you want to stay. You just go in and go out at ease. This is thanks to Superfluid and to the blockchain, actually. Well, going to pricing, two things come into my mind. First of all, thanks to Polygon, we were able to reduce pricing up to 60%, which means the fees are extremely low. And thanks to Superfluid XI integration, the capital is always assured. So you aren't subject to inflation and deflation according to market prices. The whole application is fully decentralized as data is stored on IPFS. We'll go in details later, but in general, IPFS is a decentralized file storage, and images, metadata, anything related to the app is located on IPFS, and only the user are in control of data. Security is our first concern. That's why we went for a talk with Taurus. Taurus is a non-custodial wallet, which allows people to log in using social providers like Twitter, Gmail, or Discord. And at the same time, they don't need to install anything. This is because we wanted to have extremely user-centric interface without any breaking point, like having to stop and install MetaMask. On the other side, thanks to Secret Network, we were able to bury a secret, in this case, the code for opening the key, where the key is located. As if you've used the Airbnb, many property owners usually leave their keys in a locker outside the house. So we extended that concept, burying the code of the key locker inside a Secret Network token. So the process is pretty straightforward. The property manager or the landlord creates an NFT, and the metadata is linked to the metadata inside IPFS. Secondly, when tenant wants to rent the property, they simply create a new Superfluid stream, thus moving the required amount of money from their wallet to the property manager. Once they are ready to leave, they just close the Superfluid stream, and the NFT goes back into the decentralized application, into Abode.me. At the same time, property managers can also decide to burn the NFT and remove their listing from the app. So a lot of talking, but let's see how it goes. You can see here the Taurus login workflow, pretty straightforward with Discord in this case. The app loads with a pretty traditional interface. You can see I'm connected to Polygon in this case. Featured houses will load according to your position. And for this demo, I just wanted to show how the whole process looks like. Here you can see all data is taken from the board. So my image, nickname, people don't need to retype everything as we take them from, we take those info from Taurus wallet. Now I'm going to set up a price, a daily price, deposits, collateral, and an image. Loading the image, now I'm loading the code, AB123. You can say it's buried inside the Secret Network. And once a person will rent my property, they will be shown the code just once. The code will then be released and removed from a Secret Network, meaning that I will, as property manager, I will need to add a new code. This is to provide the maximum security to our users. So finally, I can see my home is rented, is ready for rent. And to conclude the demo, I just deleted. So that was all. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Gianmarco. That was it's a really cool dApp, and I mean, the way you were able to integrate like so many different networks and so many different tools is really awesome.
If I can add, actually, I need to say, as a newcomer to the DeFi world, it was one of my first real projects with the blockchain in general. I come from a traditional robotics background. I was really surprised by looking at how detailed any type of documentation is, really, from Polygon to Taurus to Secret Network. So it was really easy just looking at tutorials and general how the community is going, Discord, and support from other users to actually build something usable, which works. And that's really impressive, actually.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for participating in the hackathon, Gianmarco, and yeah, we're excited to see where this goes.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, so next up we have the Hummingbot bounty, and the winner from this bounty was Sean Wolf. So we have him up on stage now. Maybe Gianmarco, you can stop sharing screen and we can pass it on to Sean.
Hello. Hello.
Hey.
Can you guys hear me all?
Yep. Yep.
Awesome. All right. Let me get the screen sharing here, and I will share the screen. Okay. Is it showing up for you guys yet?
Yeah, can see it.
All right. We got double screen going on here. All right. Okay, so I was involved in the Hummingbot strategy here, and I'm just going to kind of go over the hack and what it was and what was the purpose of it real quickly. I'll just open the presentation here. I'm Sean Wolf. If you guys want to contact me, I'm on GitHub and Discord and Gitcoin as the username SquareLover. Just real quickly about me, I've been in tech industry for over 25 years. I played around with crypto started about 2014, then I kind of got out of it around 2017. But I jumped back in about February of this year, and I've been working and playing around and developing on Hummingbot for about three or 4 months now. So I saw this Gitcoin bounty, and I thought it would be fun to try and participate in. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. So real quickly, I guess you can't see this. The text is all black. Let me see if I could highlight this. But basically, Hummingbot is a trading bot for cryptocurrencies that you can set up, particularly in market making strategies. The application is completely open source. It's available on GitHub, and their website is hummingbot.io. They're a really good, great community. They have a really active Discord channel, so everyone should definitely check it out. One of the things that's really great about Hummingbot is that right out of the when you download it and install it and you run it, it has a lot of stuff built into it. It has a lot of strategies, very basic ones to some very complex ones, ranging from anywhere to centralized exchanges to distributed exchanges. And there's a lot of connectors to support a lot of existing exchanges, and there are more and more growing every day. So as I've been trading with Hummingbot for a while, it's been really fun, and I've been playing with the liquidity mining and just general trading and some other strategies that I've been working with and developing. I've been working with a few individuals that have had some ideas, been trying to implement things for them. But then every once in a while, like when I've been personally trading, I've been having an individual problem. And that problem often usually ends up looking something like this. As a trend or a spike in the activity in a particular market happens, the bot is really good at being able to use a bunch of rules to create your spreads and the volumes of the amount of trades that you want to do. But as market tends to really grow in one direction, it can't tell the difference between, oh, this is your this market has grown just this much and it meets your spread. Let's execute. Let's not change the order, and then just go ahead and let the order go and execute. So a lot of times I would have my bots sell as the beginning of a upward trend would happen. So I'd be exited out of it. And then as the trend starts to reverse and go back down, it would buy here. And, that's just not a really, really good thing at all for a bot to be doing. It's not a very long-term profitable strategy for a bot. So I really racked my brains. Well, I had some ideas on how to possibly work on it. And I think this hack day allowed me an opportunity to work on it. So I came up with something to help this. So I thought the thing that was missing is that these bots don't understand trends, or they can't really see trends. They're just looking at the market data at a second-to-second basis. There is some other strategies have built-in volatility analysis, and that works really well. But volatility doesn't really tell you which direction the market is going. So I decided to do some loose research, and I looked into a couple of indicators, and I ended up settling on the Rune set of indicators. Initially, I was looking to do a Williams %R indicator, but as I started and I was researching into the code of Hummingbot, there wasn't a very easy way to do a lot of historical analysis, and that's what Williams %R really needed. And then there's also some issues about the simplicity of being able to understand what the indicator was really telling me, and I was also running out of time. So I ended up looking at a Rune, and it was very attractive to me because it's actually fairly simple to implement and also fairly simple to kind of get some sort of insight into what's going on. As you can see here in this little screenshot here of you got your normal ticker view of candlesticks, and then below it is an Arun indicator. And the Arun indicator usually has two instruments in it. One is what's called Arun up, and another one that's called Arun down. I'll get to that in just a second. So what is the Arun indicator? It was created in 1995 by a guy named Tushar Chande. I probably butchered his name. He did previously, in the previous year, publish a book called The New Technical Trader, in which he had a bunch of instrumentations. And Arun kind of came out a little bit after it as a kind of simplified and working more directly with shorter time frames. The word Arun is, I've read from many different pieces of literature about these indicators, that it was Sanskrit for dawn dealer light. So I guess Chande really was confident in that these indicators would give you insight fairly quickly into what's going on in the market. I tried to actually look specifically if that's what Arun really did mean in Sanskrit, so I couldn't confirm it. I'm going to just take the words for it that that's what it meant. But basically, the general consistency, the basis of how the Arun indicator works is that you take a bunch of individual samples of market data, and it's a fixed length or a number of samples. And that period, or these periods of samples, have a fixed also sample time frame. So you could set a time frame that you'd say, okay, it could be a minute, it could be an hour, or a day. And then you would choose the number of periods, consecutive periods that you will keep and use to do your analysis of. And the traditional one that was published, you would use 25 samples. And you could adjust it as you need. Adding more samples will make the waves in the indicators smoother, but you'll see a lot less indication for trends that happen in between larger overall trends. If you use smaller ones, the waves will be much sharper, so you'll see much more smaller activity in the market. The indicators that are involved in here, there's 3 of them. So the first one is the Arun up indicator. The Arun up indicator has a value that outputs from either 0 to 100. And what this one indicates is how recent the highest high has happened. So out of your samples, period data, you would say for the 25 samples that you have, you would try and figure out where was the most recent highest high in that 25 sample period was. And if it was at the most recent period, then that value would be 100. And if it was at the end of the 25 period, it would be close to 0. And as you can see below here, it's a fairly simple formula. You just take the number of periods and then the period since the last highest high, and you divide that by the number of periods. So you're basically getting the index of the period, and then you're multiplying it by 100. So you're getting this ratio of the position of the highest high towards the end of the periodical data. Then the next one is the counter to that, which is the Arun down indicator. And it's another one that indicates a range from 0 to 100. And this one instead indicates the time period of when the lowest low happened in the market. And so if the number is 100, then that means the lowest low in the sample data happened at the most recent period. Whereas it gets closer to 0, it happened in the last period in the sample data. And again, the Arun down indicator is just the same as the Arun up, except you use the lowest low point instead of the highest high. And the third indicator is the Arun oscillator indicator. This ranges from -100 to 100. And this indicator is basically the difference between the Arun up and the Arun down. The thing that's really good about this indicator is that it can, from that very simple equation, it can strongly indicate when a trend is happening. As the indicator for the oscillator approaches 100, it strongly indicates that you're in, or it is happening inside an upward trend. And as it approaches -100, that's strongly indicating towards a downward trend. And as the value is close to the 0 area, that means it's probably an in-between period, or there's probably a reversal, or it's a period that doesn't seem to have a distinctive trend. And again, the formula right there, it's just Arun up minus Arun down. So I decided to take these indicators and use it to help my trading bots. And so I took the pure market making strategy, because it's a fairly simple, straightforward, but a strategy in Hummingbot that has a lot of features with a lot of bells and whistles. So I took that, made a copy of it, and then modified it to add my indicators trading strategy. And the idea was to use the Arun up as it got close to 100. Then that was probably a good indicator that this was a good place for my bot to have my ask orders execute. So you would reduce the spread of your ask orders. And inversely, when the Arun down is close to 100, you would then reduce your bid spreads, so that would hopefully buy at the opportune time. But sometimes, like, even though it might be at the highest high, it could keep getting higher and higher and higher, or it might get lower and lower and lower. And that's where I started using the oscillator indicator. As the oscillator indicator got closer to 100, that would mean that we're likely in a trend and it's still moving. And so I would use that oscillator to then, after I had adjusted the spreads based on the up or down indicators, I would then use the oscillator indicator to then push the spread out further from possibly executing. So I'd increase the spread so that by the time it's in the trend, it's not going to try and trade in the middle. It'll hopefully, as it stays at 100, that means that the trend is probably going to keep progressing. And then as the trend starts to go down, or it starts to reverse, you're going to see the Arun up indicator. So if it's like in an uptrend, the up indicator will start going down, and then the oscillator as well will start going down. And you might also see the Arun down indicator start going up. So then the oscillator value will start to head towards -100. So that would mean you would relax your spread, and it will come back down to an executable position for your orders. And hopefully that will be the most opportunistic and profitable point for your bot to be trading at. And here's a quick chart of what the indicators would show you. On this chart here, we have your bars of your open, high, low, close instead of the candlesticks. And below you have the red one being the down indicator and the green one being the up indicator. And below here is what the oscillator would look like. And as you can see, when the up indicator is at the top and the down indicator is at the bottom, you would see that the oscillator starts to move up in the positive space towards 100. And you can see it kind of also mirrors here in this period here that where there was a general upwards trend. And you can see as this peak of the oscillator happened, that was up kind of close to where the actual peak of this trend happened. So if we were to actually say, like, we kept on keeping our spread close to an executable space, but just continually pushing it out as the pressure from the oscillator pushed it up, saying that the trend was increasing. And when it got to its peak, you can then start bringing the spread down while the green indicator, the up indicator, is still up. So then you're hopefully in this window of opportunity, your ask order will execute and a sell order will be placed, filled, and your trade will happen. And inversely, as the down indicator goes up to 100, you see that it starts to signal that we're heading into a downtrend, and you can see that the oscillator confirms this. So as you can see, it's a fairly simple indicator, and I thought it was a very good way to help indicate to a bot in a very programmatic way how to help do the trading. So now I'll just actually do a run of it. And I got Hummingbot open up here. All right, so we have a bot here. I don't know how many of you that are viewing this have used Hummingbot. It's really kind of cool. It has a neat little terminal-based interface. And so you can type in your commands. And what you do when you want to create a strategy for your trade, you just type in the word create. I've already had my exchange connector set up here, but we are in what's called paper trading mode. And paper trading mode, it will actually take market data from the exchange, and you have like a paper balance, and it will watch the market data, but it will never actually make real trade orders on the market. It will actually also simulate by actual executions of orders, so that as the price gets close to where your trade might actually execute, it will pretend to actually do that execution. So when you do a create, it'll ask you what kind of strategy. So we're going to bring up the strategy that I created called the Rune Oscillator. You first need to choose your connector. So we'll go and add my connector, which is Gitcoin. And I'm going to choose a market that has a very kind of active market, so we can see this operate. So we'll do Doge USDT, and it'll ask you a couple questions to help you get started. And these are basically the minimum questions needed to get this strategy going. And there are additional parameters that you can set later on, but these are the main ones that you really need. So the two things that you start with is that it asks you for a minimum and a maximum spread that you want to have your bot executing orders at. So we're going to start at, let's say, I want it to be about double maybe my my fee on the exchange, just for a round trip sort of calculation, and we'll maybe add a little bit after that. So 0.22. But we want to be able to have have our profits go and have a spread of maybe 2 or 3. Let's do 2.5 for our maximum spread. Here is where we get to determine how many sample periods we're going to have in our oscillator data. So we're going to just take the default 25, and then we can say how long are each periods of the data that we're going to sample with to kind of get a quicker reaction. We'll go and do, let's do 5 seconds. All right. And this is a normal Hummingbot question. How often do you want to check to see if we need to refresh the orders? I'll do just 10 seconds. I'll do 400 Doge, all right? And we'll just call it the demo. All right, so our bot is configured. So now all we need to do is just type in start, and it will start executing. We'll see over here in the logs that it connects to the exchange, and it initializes the order book, and it already put 2 orders. We go and we can check the status, And we can see there are our 2 orders. Initially, as the bot starts, it will have to fill up the data, and because it doesn't have enough data yet, it'll just put the ask and bid spreads at exactly in the middle of the 2 min and max spread prices. I will go and change this to do status live indicating, so we can see this update live. So as you can see in the indicator section here, where I have it printing out the data of what's going on with the indicators, we see the 3 individual indicators: the up, the down, and the oscillator. And then here's an indicator. What's saying, is the indicator full of data? It's not. We're still only got 13 periods, but the current period, this is the start timestamp, the end timestamp, the high and the low of that period. And then when this thing eventually fills up, you will see here that we will get, it'll start adjusting the spreads, and you also see the equation show up here. So as you can see, the market's pretty active, and these are still just initial spread, and they're just changing because of the fact that the prices are changing away from that initial creation of those orders. And as you can see, the bot, Hummingbot is a market-making app, so bot, so it tries to constantly adjust your spreads so that it stays within an area that your strategy be worth. So you'll see, you could attune this a bit so it doesn't cancel maybe as much as it is right now, but it's going to try and keep changing the orders until it matches what your rules have been set up for it. Right now it's pretty strict, so it cancels and replaces it. So you can see now the indicator is finally,
just as a heads up, the next team presenting actually has to drop off soon.
Okay, so I'm almost done. So as you can see, here is the formula, and you can see it's already starting to apply that to the spreads here. So we got this adjusted the bid spread because the indicator is showing that we are in a downward market. So the bid indicator is being adjusted downward, and the ask spread is being pushed up. So that's basically it, and I'm ready to hand off to the next person.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sean. It's a really cool implementation. I think like the thought process behind it is really cool. If you want to just drop in your socials into the chat or where they can find the tool, that would be great.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome.
And I will hand it over here. Close the video. And
cool. So the next project we have is from the Secret Network Bounty. His name is Florian, and he's going to be presenting the Mangrove Protocol. So here we are.
Hello.
Hey, Florian, how are you?
Hear me all right?
It's a bit.
Thank you.
It's a bit low, the audio.
Let me see if I can increase it.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. The work on Mangrove Protocol. The idea here is to have something that is built on the Secret Network platform, and that is kind of working very similar to what we heard on the Open DeFi talk in the beginning. So idea is to have a protocol in place that is constantly generating value from the staked assets of its users, and kind of can work as an engine to power up other dApps and other applications on the Secret Network. And the way that it's supposed to be working is we do have some users, and those users can deposit their secret, which is the native token of the Secret Network, into some kind of pool. And in the protocol, we do have different pools, and we connect them with different streams. And what will happen is the moment I deposit some of my secret, I will receive ERC20 token called Mangrove, and my secret will move into some kind of stable investment pool. And what we're going to do there is, this is like a smart contract just on Secret Network, and it will take the secret and it will invest it based on different strategies. So what I implemented during the hackathon It's SushiSwap staking. So SushiSwap is the governance token of the swap that is currently live on Secret Network, and they have some pretty decent APYs at the moment. So the secret that you're staking will be invested, and it will also be automatically compounded and like do everything for you from the secret contract. And the interesting part here now is this mangrove token that you receive when you enter the pool is kind of bound to the current price of the TVL, or the current TVL of the stable pool. So you will kind of get a share of this pool, and by holding this mangrove token, it will rise in value. And then at some point you can decide that you want to exit. You send back your mangrove token and you receive the amount of secret that equivalents the current share of this pool, basically. And then some ideas. You could add some arbitrage to this, that when you buy mangrove tokens, you pay a bit more. When you sell, you get a tiny percentage less, which will also infuse secondary markets on Secret Network. But this is kind of the base motor of the thing. And now the interesting part is how we generate value, because like in the end, what we want to do with Mangrove Protocol here is to have something that brings value to all of its users and is not extracting value from someone specifically because other users are, I don't know, better suited or smarter or something. And what we do, because all your assets are managed by a smart contract, that means that for the compounding and for like swapping secret into another token so that you can add it into liquidity pair providing, you don't need to do one transaction per user, because we can all handle this from the smart contract. So what we generate as a surplus is basically the transaction fees for every user except one, because we can all do this in a single transaction instead of having a number X transactions, one per user. And the surplus is kind of put into a third pool, currently called the growth pool. And this is where the interesting part comes in, where we could have outward flows. So we could have dApps on Secret Network, or you can have like a launchpad or something that could tap into this growth pool. So currently, idea is to have it as some kind of vesting. So there will be a part of the growth pool reinvested into the stable pool, which of course will kind of speed up the compounding and give you some nice benefits over staking on your own. But the long-term vision would be to have other applications connect to this growth pool. And the value that I saw in this is that for single users, you can stake your secret for the mangrove token, and I as a user will receive at least the same amount that I would receive if I do it for myself. Plus, I don't need to care for compounding, for doing it daily or something, because it's all done through the smart contract. And then the second part is that entities or companies or other individuals can come in and they can kind of get access to the mangrove ecosystem by staking a certain amount of secret and then being able to connect to this growth pool. So the idea is, for example, we have a game running on Secret right now, and you could imagine like having a certain amount of secret staked, which will then go into the stable pool and will increase the yield for all the users. And in return, my game gets
Yeah, you disconnected there. I think your mic unplugged, or audio just went south.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Is it okay if I keep going like this?
Yeah. It's back to normal. It just, I think,
okay,
unplugged or something.
Okay. Weird, but fine. Okay. Did you catch the whole entity block thing, or should I go back a few seconds?
You can go back like 5 seconds.
Okay. So idea would be that other entities could bring in their application, like a game that is running on Secret Network, to stake a certain amount of secret to boost up this stable pool to increase the yield of all the participants. And in return, you would get an allocation from this growth pool that is kind of giving you some trickle charge on a block basis or a daily basis that you could use in your application to incentivize your users. And yeah, quick rundown what was done during the hack. So implemented this Sapphire staking strategy, which is very simple because I only have to convert the secret into the Sapphire token, stake it, and then claim rewards and compound. And already like given a number of, I think 5 users are on this at the moment. So we already generate like $1 per user per day that we save because we can batch this compounding and swapping transactions together. The whole thing is right now not super decentralized, so it's running from an Azure function, and also the contributions, like which account put in which amount of secret, is just stored in a regular database. So obvious next steps is to get rid of this database and Azure function stuff, which would mean that this calls to secret network that are currently facilitated to a Node.js application will be built as smart contracts. And then the second half to make this first version run is to build up this token and implement this buy in and sell out depending on the current value locked in the stake pool. And then the plan is to get this to mainnet soonish, get a few people on this and gather some statistics and see, like, try if the concept works, because before we open it up to large amount of people. And then a bit longer term is to have more strategies how to generate value. So as I mentioned, this Sapphire staking is pretty good, but also pretty simple. And you could like enable different strategies that are also running on the secret swap, like liquidity providing, or you could implement different staking strategies. So Secret Network is using proof of stake, so you could also stake the secret directly. Then next level would be to build up decentralized governance based on the Mangrove token, so that people can, for example, vote on like how they would like to allocate the assets in the stable pool. And then we do have a few ideas in the backlog, like how do we handle if some contracts are upgraded that are not in our control. So for example, if Secret Swap does an upgrade at some point, how do we get notified of this? How can we point our contracts to the new address and so forth? And then long-term vision, of course, is to expand this ecosystem to enable those symbiotic effects and to like get more for the single users, get them a higher yield, and also provide some incentives for new applications coming onto the network that they can forward to the users to make them interested in joining the ecosystem. And that's it. I don't have a super big live demo because it's mostly backend stuff, but I can show you what happens. So if I trigger this this endpoint that is currently running on Azure, it will do this transaction in the backend, will take a few seconds. And what's happening now, it's claiming the rewards. It is reinvesting them. And I see that I have a total amount of, I don't know. So Sapphire has 6 decimal places, and I started the test run with 1,000 Sapphire. So in the last 2.5 weeks, we have generated 73 Sapphire, of which are, like, most of them are staked right now. So this is the basic functional version that is right now running on the testnet. And then again, next steps are bringing this to mainnet and extending on the protocol. And then I'm done and happy to take questions if there are any.
Doesn't look like anything's popped up now, but maybe just stick into the chat and something will pop up.
Okay, absolutely.
Awesome. So next up we have Etienne. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yes, that's right, Etienne. Yes.
So
perfect.
YieldSwap is the winner of the Oasis protocol bounty. So we'll check out what you were up to over the hackathon.
Very cool. So can you share my, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Right. So let me get into full mode. Perfect. So yeah, hi everyone. My name is Etienne, and I'm very happy to present the yield swap protocol to you today. So in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to talk about why we created yield swap, what it is, how it works, and what's next on our roadmap. So why did we create yield swap? The reason is actually quite simple. We wanted to provide users with a new tool to better handle and better control DeFi yield volatility. So for example, if you look at the borrowing rates of USDC in the last 6 months, you can really see that these have fluctuated anywhere between 4 and 16%. Or if we look at the weekly rate changes of the deposit and lending rates, we see that those also have moved quite substantially, could have been anywhere between plus and minus 10% within a time period of just 7 days. Now, obviously, this isn't ideal for users that want to plan for longer durations or don't want to constantly actually monitor and reallocate their funds, which also can be quite tedious, costly, and time-consuming. And that's basically where yield swap comes into play. Yield swap allows you to exchange variable rates against fixed rates and vice versa. And in fact, in the traditional finance world, this concept is known under the term of interest rate swaps. And now with the yield swap protocol, we basically want to bring these instruments into the DeFi world. And the way that works is that we allow any two parties to enter into an agreement where one side, the so-called payer, pays the other side, the so-called receiver, a fixed rate, and in exchange receives a variable rate from the other side. So for what kind of use cases does this actually make sense? There are couple of scenarios where you can apply this yield swap protocol. So for example, users can use these swaps to hedge their yield volatility with DeFi lending pools. So let's assume you've deposited funds with a DeFi lending pool, but would like to convert that into a constant yield. So with yield swap, you can exactly do this. You can enter into a receiver swap where basically your inflowing and outflowing volatile rates offset each other, and you just receive a stable constant yield. And another example is actually related to trading. So let's say you're super convinced that the yields are going to start increasing over the course of the next few weeks. And with DeFi, with the yield swap DeFi protocol, you can now actually start speculating on this market view by entering into a payer swap, where if the rates indeed increase over time, you will make a profit by collecting this positive difference between the variable rate you receive and the fixed rate you pay. And also, generally speaking, we believe that the yield swap protocol really creates a new market that hasn't been in DeFi before. And this market in itself actually provides some very useful information because it reflects the market's expectations about future yields and can also help make price discovery more efficient. So in a nutshell, how does yield swap work? Basically, we use an automated market maker that offers users to trade both receiver or payer swaps at any time. And the fixed rate that the automated market maker here offers to the user is dynamically determined based on the current supply and demand of receiver and payer swaps. So, for example, if there's a lot of user demand for receiver swaps, then the fixed rate that the market maker can offer will gradually decrease, as you can see in this figure below. And as long as yields are more or less mean reverting, the yield swap protocol will actually make a profit in the long run. On the one hand side from the bid and ask spread, and on the other hand side also from settlement fees paid by the users. And investors can participate in these revenue streams through providing liquidity to the automated market maker. And for the hackathon, we basically did a reference implementation of this idea on the Oasis Ethereum network, and we're now testing and gradually improving the prototype to make it ready for future productive launch. So what's going to happen next? We already have several ideas how we could actually improve the yield swap protocol. For example, adding additional tenors, so different durations for the agreements, for the swap agreements, adding different collateral types and so on. we're also thinking about how we could use some of these privacy preserving features that come along with the Oasis Ethereum network. So we're going to prioritize those different features, move forward to get into an MVP state of the YieldSwap protocol. And next step will then be to prepare everything actually for a security audit, onboard early liquidity providers, and then eventually launch. And in case you'd like to contribute or have any kind of questions, ideas, please feel free to reach out to us on our landing page, yieldswap.app, or by email at hello@yieldswap.app. And that's basically it. So I'd like to also conclude with a big thank you from me and my team members. Thanks to the Open DeFi community, to Gitcoin and Oasis for this opportunity. And we hope you all enjoyed the presentation a bit. Thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome, Eddie. Thank you so much. So next up, we have the IOSG Kickstarter program. We're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into what exactly that is and how it works. And we actually have a pre-recorded video of the process because they are they are on the other side of the world, so it's pretty late for them now. So let's dive right into it.
Ventures. It's my pleasure to have this opportunity to share with you this new Kickstarter program. So this is a new program designed to help early stage founders accelerate their projects. But before that, what do we do at IOSG Ventures? We are an early stage venture firm. We want to engage the community in accelerating the development of open finance and Web 3.0. So far, we have supported more than 60 projects. Some of them are layer ones, for example, the likes of Polkadot, Nia, Cosmos. Some of them at the middleware layer, for example, the Rider Network, Seller, and Rich. And we also supported many DeFi projects, for example, Dodo, Wine, Gelato, Synthetics, UMA, and Centrifuge. So it's our pleasure actually to have this opportunity to have supported many founders when they are trying to accelerate either the development or the adoption of their projects. So what we do, we provide help along the way beyond just funding. So for example, every year we would organize an old friends reunion event in China to help connect different projects among themselves. And also we try to connect projects with the community into the assets, both in China and outside of Asia. So the reason we have started this Kickstarter program is that we observe, I think probably all of you have observed as well, that the pace of innovation, commercialization, and even adoption in today's blockchain world has just been ever faster. So we have to start working together at the earliest stage possible. So many founders, especially new founders, when they start their new projects, they not only need capital injection in terms of bootstrapping the project, but on the other hand, they need varying kinds of help. So for example, some of them might need a little bit of help when they are designing their technical architecture. Some of them might need help in terms of financial engineering, and some of them might need some thoughts and brainstorming when they are finalizing their token economics. And some of them surely need to have partnerships with other existing projects. Right, so that's why we are designing this program, so that we can start working with all these early stage founders as early as possible. So we want to take it as our mission to help these founders realize their vision. Right, that's a general theme and objective for us to launch this program. So beyond just the initial funding support, we are going to be working with these founders from the early stage till they actually have a product and roll it out. So it's going to be a long-term partnership. We can provide very customized and tailored support to these founders and teams, as I mentioned earlier. To do that, we have also partnered with the top projects and entrepreneurs in the space to bring the participants in this program a full suite of support. So you are going to get support not just from IOSG Ventures, for example, but you are also going to get a lot of support from our partners. So we have actually just recently started funding one particular project in partnership with one of our mentors. I think I've explained a little bit in terms of the objectives we want to achieve together with all of the participants in this program. And I think there are certain details that we can discuss further. But let me just explain the gist of the funding part, which is still, I think, critical when people are considering participation in this program. So we are not setting a so-called cap on valuation. So what that means is that if you are going to do a fundraising in future, you are going to set something called a valuation, which is the total price in a sense for your entire network or for your entire company, right? So probably you're not very sure about that yet. That's why now we are just giving you some initial funding without setting a cap on that particular valuation. So in this way, you can get our funding and get our support. Everything will get started very quickly. We can just start working together, partnering together. And then we can help you strategize your next funding round. That's the idea. We want to just get started as soon as possible. So really, thank you very much for this opportunity to allow me to introduce you this program. And I'm looking forward to speaking further with all of you who are interested in participating in this program. Thank you very much.
Okay, everyone. Thanks to IOSG for making the effort to come present. Just wanted to thank everyone for tuning in today. The past few months have been really good for us. We've done some amazing things. We want to thank all the sponsors that came and supported our Gitcoin Hackathon. It ended up being, one of, if not the biggest DeFi hackathons of the year. We had over 20 sponsors, around 200K in prizes. And like Connor was mentioning earlier, around like 950 hackers showed up. We want to thank also Open Zeppelin and IOSG for sponsoring the bounty with us. If you're interested in the Kickstarter program, if you're a developer, we definitely recommend you to go check them out. And if you're looking for auditing services, you should definitely go check out the new Defender program from Open Zeppelin. Wanted to thank Merrick and Fazil from the Open DeFi and the Opti teams presenting their projects, and also Hamza and SushiSwap for popping out today and just giving a quick word on what they think cross-chain DeFi is going to turn into. We're really confident and excited on the Open DeFi DAO that's coming up. We truly believe like the different innovations and the different partners we've set up, like over the next few months, if not years, you're going to see some really cool multi-chain innovations pop out of this DAO. And if you want to get involved in any way, I'll just leave in all the channels we have. We have Telegram, Discord, and everything. And if you want to contribute, like all the tools you need are there. So you can come help out, whether you're a venture strategist, yield strategist, anything like that. So I'll just drop in the links there. And for anyone who wanted to go back and watch anything later, we'll be posting stuff on YouTube, and you can find the links on our Discord and Telegram and such. So yeah, thank you, everyone.